right, it's the Quinn Pop Podcast. I'm Peter Dawson.
I'm James Bullock.
And just to let you know, there's a voice out there calling me. Maybe tomorrow I'll finally settle down. Kudos to anyone who gets that reference. Kudos indeed. How you doing today, James?
Actually feeling pretty wonderful today.
Really? How wonderful?
Almost as wonderful as if I could go far beyond the reaches of time and space, into the depths of the galaxies, to just figure out if somehow, some way, I could get out of it all and maybe, just maybe, figure out what the shape of water truly is.
So you're saying you have to split?
Yeah, definitely. And if I do, I might look like a jigsaw piece.
Mm-hmm. So what you're saying is you have to get out?
Yep. But only because I'm trying to get to my homecoming.
Fair enough. And then we'll all be Baby Driver.
But
that didn't work.
The big question is, what is your theme song?
3 billboards outside of Ebbing, Missouri. Is that what we're doing? Did I ruin the joke yet?
That actually sounds like that would be a song.
That actually sounds like it could be a weird country song.
That would be an Eddie Vedder song.
Yeah, I could go for that. Anyway, so we're going to talk about 2017 in film today, plus we are going to talk about video games a little later. But 2017 in film is naturally going to take up most of this episode. And as we so eloquently teased, James, you want to take the first one?
Yeah. Like I said, I'm feeling pretty wonderful because the first one we want to talk about today is Wonder Woman, which was really, I believe, the first big superhero movie of the year in 2017.
No, that was in June.
Wow. I thought it came out in May.
I don't think so. And even then, Guardians of the Galaxy came out before it.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. So
yeah.
DC was behind again. There you go.
Made up for it this time, though. June 2nd. June 2nd.
Okay, good. All right. Well, one thing I might have to say that at least, unlike Guardians of the Galaxy, I hate to poke at it a little too early, but I think that Wonder Woman wasn't a letdown.
Mm-hmm. No, Wonder Woman, for the most part, exceeded expectations, I think.
Yeah, and you got kudos to Gail Gadot. Gail just perfect as Wonder Woman. Like, to
you
me,
didn't even try to say her last name again.
Yeah, I didn't even bother. Just forget it.
Gal
I'm screwing it up. I'm not even going forward here.
Gal Gadot.
There you go. I'm not eloquent like Peter.
Mm.
There you go.
Well, you see, I've studied the French language, even though she's Israeli.
Because you are the master of love.
Yes. And one day I will woo her, and then I say that out loud, and then I get arrested.
You put it out in the universe, and it will come true.
Uh-huh.
Well, one thing they didn't put out in the universe was that Wonder Woman actually would be a half-decent film. And it was better than half-decent.
Oh, absolutely. No, it was one of the strongest superhero movies of the year, which is saying something because we got like 5.
Yeah. This year.
It was definitely the strongest DC movie of the year, which I know was a low bar, but I mean, no, it was genuinely a good film. I think it made onto the American Film Institute's 10 best movies of 2017.
Yeah.
Which is usually mostly art films. I mean, like, they've awarded other films now and then. Like, one year they awarded it to Mad Max 4. So, it wasn't like they had no appreciation.
They had no history with actually doing it, but like it's a very thin list of nominees. Yeah.
Oh yeah, most of the ones are ones that ended up on the Academy Award nominee list. So I mean, and Wonder Woman.
I'm shocked you didn't get nominated for anything for the Academy Awards this year.
Well, I think if the female director list had been kind of slim pickings, they might have gone for it. But luckily, they had a few really well-directed female films this year that were more in keeping with the Academy's usual tastes. So, but there was a couple of surprises, including a couple on this list that we're going to talk about later.
Yeah, definitely. I think it really set a benchmark for the overall DC universe as a sole. We have just the sole characters. As we know, we talked about Justice League, and just a disclaimer for anybody that's listening to this, we're not probably going to talk about it or Thor Ragnarok or Justice League because we've already reviewed those. So go back in some of our early episodes and you can hear about us talking about those. So there you go with that. But Wonder Woman was one that we didn't get a chance to talk about, and it's funny because to me it was like the best way to really get you ready for Justice League and then Wonder Woman really wasn't a big deal in Justice League.
I know, it was kind of a bummer. She got like no characterization because, like, I guess because they were so busy with her film being made not too long earlier that they didn't want to ensure what to do with what would work and what would make the cut, etc.
Right. She did have a bad. She still had a great scene dealing with one of the worst villains in the history of the DC universe. So.
Oh yeah, it's true.
Yeah. Still had a great scene for that.
Yep. But moving on, because we only have so much time, I wanted to talk about Baby Driver. Now, Baby Driver also came out in June of this 2017,
Mm-hmm.
and is directed by Edgar Wright, who is easily one of my favorite directors of all time right now. Because remember, basically every movie he's done has been, at worst, enjoyable.
Right.
Because he did, let me think here. He did Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz.
Two of my favorites.
Yeah, yeah. Hot Fuzz is probably one of my all-time favorite films, full stop. And then The World's End, which I did quite enjoy. I know some people didn't like it as much, and that I totally understand that. He also did Scott Pilgrim vs. the World.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunately rapidly not aging that well, but it's still
no,
enjoyable.
It's not, unfortunately.
It's yeah, you know, I still like it though. And then he did Baby Driver. I believe this is only his fifth major film. Yeah, because I think the other one was a indie film or something.
Yeah, I know he did he was part of Attack on the Block too, and
he was just an executive producer on that. Like,
yeah,
this is only his fifth official film, so he hadn't really done. He hadn't done anything in about 4 years. Like, he was gonna do Ant-Man, and instead that ended up. Like, he was still one of the writers, but they changed his script, and he ended up because they didn't want to do it the Marvel way, which happens. Anyway, Baby Driver, real quick, is the story of a getaway car driver, played by Ansel Elgort, which is a name that I never thought I'd have to say as a serious contender for a really good actor, but there you go. I know, this is me being so PC right now. But no, he was really good at it, and it's... Unfortunately, speaking of things that are not PC, Kevin Spacey. He was in this.
Yeah.
Look, whatever you think of the man, he is genuinely good in this, but...
It's just one of those things that now, hindsight's 2020.
Yeah. Just, I really hate when actors, they're like, oh, I'm gonna do horrible stuff in my personal life. This will never catch up with me. And I was like, well, yeah. I mean, thank God those people got justice.
Right.
But it's definitely just like this huge ripple effect. It's like, well, any people, a project has to get shelved because a star has to get fired, and that can kill the whole production. And it's like, you're not just ruining your own life and ruining the lives of your victims. You're also ruining the lives of people who depend on you for work, and then can potentially get screwed over if you get canned and that cancels the whole project. It's a horrible domino effect. It's amazing how many lives you can ruin by being a terrible person and being a celebrity, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. This is definitely a great example of it, because it's a really good movie. The fact that, one thing, shout out to the fact that he still use iPods.
Yeah.
In this movie. Oh man, that was a throwback. And some of the best cinematography in terms of choreography with driving that I've seen in quite a while in a movie.
Well, Edgar Wright is probably one of the best cinematographers alive today.
I mean, there's one point where he does a good skid underneath a trailer that is just fantastic. I love that scene. It's so simple, but I love it. I really do.
I think the guy who did this is the guy that's done... Yeah, he's been working with Edgar Wright. Like, the guy who does the cinematography in this movie, with Edgar Wright here. He did Scott Pilgrim, he did The World's End, so he's been working with Edgar Wright for the last, 3 movies.
Mm-hmm.
Which explains why, the action scenes have been so good in his last 2 movies.
And also, shout out to the fact that they had 2 of my favorite Atlanta rappers as restaurant patrons in the movie, Killer Mike and Big Boy.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. That was awesome. I got a good pop when I saw that. It was just really funny to me.
Even think about that.
If I recall correctly, isn't Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers in it?
Yep.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I knew Flea was in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, because this movie's interesting because it's in general a very cliche story, but it does it so well.
Yeah.
Which is something that you see a lot of, Wonder Woman, when we boil it down to it, it's heroine wants to kill evil god. I'm like, well...
Mm-hmm.
And then we get Baby Driver, it's like, guy wants to get away from life with cute girlfriend who's just like a waitress.
Yeah.
Lily James, very talented actress. Not the only
Yeah,
one.
very great. And that was one thing I was a little bit concerned about was the romantic relationship. They did it very well.
Yeah, no, everything was done well. John Hamm, great turn as a villain. Sounds like John Hamm's really good at playing villains.
Yeah,
And
he
then
found his niche.
Jamie Foxx is the crazy guy.
Yeah, which is it's amazing because I always have trouble taking Jamie Foxx seriously,
Yeah,
and
sorry,
he pulled it off on this one. So there you go.
nice. Yeah, no, it's a very good movie, and it's super enjoyable. There's a real style to it. Like it's just engrossing to watch, and it's great to watch on big screen.
Hmm.
So I guess we should probably move on.
Yeah, yeah. Going back to the superheroes.
Yep.
Oh, I kind of alluded to this already, but I will say the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, solid movie.
Yeah.
But
No.
really, it should have been Guardians of the Galaxy, the Star-Lord family saga. Like, that should have been really the subtitle for this movie.
Well, yeah, because Star-Lord's family issues take center stage, but the more I've rewatched it, I actually have more of an appreciation for it, and I'm also kind of mad at it. Because this movie actually does, for the most part, a really good job of examining abuse
Okay.
in some subtle ways. Like you see, because you get the son who was abandoned by his father thing, which
Right.
that's classic. But you also get Rocket Raccoon being oddly abusive towards his cohorts, and it's because
Yeah, Rocket was not very likable in this one.
yeah, but that's like the idea is they're going for an abusive character parallel. Like he's essentially
Right.
the abusive dad, except in this case he's more like an abusive family member type thing because they're supposedly a family. And then so he's one of the people who's doing the abusing, and it's like yeah, people should hate him and not want to hang around him, and they address this later on really well with Yondu, Michael Rooker.
Yeah, I was gonna say, man, Yondu was one of the highlights of the movie for me.
Yeah, and you realize later, like if you rewatch it, you realize just how much Yondu parallels what's going on with Rocket
Mm-hmm.
and the abusive family and everything, and it ends up bringing it to a pretty good emotional arc, which is why one of the final scenes focuses on Rocket so much. And it goes even beyond that because Gamora and Nebula have more screen time, and they look at the emotional connection they had where they just wanted to be sisters, but they also were fighting to survive in essentially an abusive home under
Exactly.
Thanos. Like, there's all these good themes of abuse, and the thing that annoys me so much is that Mantis is in this, and her abuse is played for laughs.
Yeah, that was really weird.
Yeah, like it's not even. I thought I was going to complain more about how Drax seemed to go more over the top, and he did. But honestly, it wasn't as bad when I rewatched him. Like, it's not so much that, it's the fact that he's one of the people who's essentially making fun of Mantis, and you spend all this time trying to make abuse victims sympathetic, and while she's arguably not getting abused bad as some of the other characters, it's an awkward theming issue. I don't know. We didn't even really talk about the plot. I'm just saying, look, there's a lot of abuse.
I know what you're saying. It's just
Sorry.
like you said, they try to add such a levity to it, and then kind of threw it out the window.
Yeah, I know, because in general they do it really well. It's just the problem is it's juxtaposed with the Mantis plot, and so the main plot, involves Star-Lord, Peter Quill, Chris Pine's character, or not Chris Pine, Chris Pratt's character meeting his dad, played by Kurt Russell, who's pretty good in this. Like, everyone does good performance, I think. Michael Rooker really knocks that out of the park as Yondu.
Yondu.
And he probably gets the most memorable line in the film. I'm Mary Poppins, y'all. That's probably my favorite line.
Man. Rooker can do no wrong for me.
No, he really can't. I'm so glad I have.
Which is saying something because there's a character like you see him in The Walking Dead. He's just an overt racist, and yet it's still somehow endearing. Like he's just such a great actor.
Yeah, and no, it's and the effects in general are up to snuff, and I loved the new soundtrack and everything. It's just it didn't quite fit, I guess, because they were cramming in a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes too many jokes, especially at the expense of Mantis when it goes against the theme.
Yeah, that was the majority of the worst jokes of the whole movie.
Yeah, because they were just kind of mean spirited.
Yeah, there was nothing to laugh about. That was the thing, like you were saying earlier, just the fact that it was laughing at abuse when we're trying to make it a sympathetic theme,
I know
which it should be anyway.
It's just a huge problem.
Yeah.
Which is a shame. And of course, I should mention they had an explanation for Stan Lee's character.
Yeah.
Small spoiler: he is a member of the Watchers, which means all the Stan Lee cameos have been the same Stan Lee.
Right.
He's secretly an almost godlike observer alien.
If they had a narrator, he would be it.
Yeah, but he can't be Uatu the Watcher because the rights at the time belonged to Fox, so he's just a Watcher.
Watcher, yeah.
Although I'm kind of hoping at the end of Avengers 4, since they've made the deal with Fox now, they can reveal him to actually be Uatu.
Yeah,
and have that be like the end of Stan Lee in the Marvel Universe, just like, a sign-off as a post-credits scene.
Right.
It's like, until next time, true believers, Excelsior. And then he turns to Uatu and just disappears.
And then there's a nurse standing right beside him.
Oh. Damn it, James, we were trying to talk about abuse. But no, yeah, Guardians was good. It's just, it worked against itself in such a prominent way. It's why, like, it tugs at the heartstrings really effectively, and other times you're just kind of annoyed.
To me, the most amazing part is the fact that Guardians of the Galaxy 1 is one of the funniest superhero movies of all time. And then you have the sequel come out, and it actually is outdone in terms of humor by another Marvel superhero movie with Thor.
I know. Just because... but to move on to another Marvel movie, you also got Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yeah.
Which is in the
I liked it.
Yeah,
I really liked it.
It easily has one of my favorite villains in a while, because we got, like, of all the... With the possible exception of Jeff Goldblum as Grandmaster, he's probably my favorite Marvel villain of 2017. And that includes the TV shows, too. Because, Michael Keaton plays... Okay, sorry, so Spider-Man Homecoming, it's basically about Spider-Man struggling to try and raise the stakes when he's a street-level hero. But he's still the street-level hero, and no one wants him to be, like, fighting alien invasions or anything like that.
He wants to be an Avenger, but nobody wants him to be an Avenger, so just keep it simple, kid.
Yeah, and so he ends up having to keep it simple. He ends up discovering what could have easily been one of the most unfortunate moments in Avengers history.
Yeah.
And it all revolves around Michael Keaton's character, Adrian Toomes, the Vulture.
Right.
Which... I don't know what I was expecting when Keaton was announced to play the Vulture, because the Vulture in the comics is like this, essentially a reclusive millionaire who's old and kind of decrepit and all that stuff. Like, I think the popular 90s cartoon had was an old man who steals youth.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, the animated series that was on Fox, yeah.
Yeah, that was the whole thing with him there. But, no, in this case, he's a blue-collar salvage worker who loses his job thanks to a government program Tony Stark helped introduce.
Yeah, I love that cutaway that you find that Tony Stark's the reason for it.
Of course he is, because even when Tony Stark tries to do good, he screws up.
He still screws up, and he's still a jerk.
I know, it's one of the reasons why they were able to justify having Tony Stark in the movie, even though he's only in a handful of scenes. He's in it more than I thought he was going to be.
Yeah, he really was. I mean, he was a real central figure, which I was happy about, because instead of just being like an off-screen mentor, he was actually a very big part of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And also, just a shout out. I know it's as minor as it was, but Zendaya had one of my favorite moments in the entire movie, where she's in detention and Hannibal Buress' character, who's a gym coach, tells her that she's not even supposed to be in detention. And she tells him she just likes to stick around and draw people who are in pain.
Oh, yeah.
And she shows Hannibal the picture of her. And she shows the picture of Hannibal that she drew of him and said, "This is you." So,
and not to mention the Captain America cameo.
Yeah, especially the end credits one. It's like, how many more of these do I have to do?
Not to mention, it's a PSA about patience, about people who waited through the entire movie to see the PSA.
Oh, so that was really good stuff.
And God bless Chris Evans. Like, this is why I love Chris Evans as Captain America so much, because he can say cheesy lines like, you know what is cool? Following the rules. and say it perfectly.
Oh man, I gotta say though, Marissa Tomei, like, how's your feelings on that young Aunt May?
Hmm.
I'm still just off about that.
I know the whole thing is weird, and it's unfortunate that we got a cliffhanger of sorts for Homecoming, and it's not going to be resolved until the next movie.
Right.
Because it is actually something different. Because this is the thing I really appreciate more than anything. It was being different. It was homaging John Hughes movies and stuff, which is fine because movies do it, and thankfully a lot of people that do it now actually understand how to do it properly.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, it's just I don't know. They're doing something different, and it's disappointing that they still have to cut in with the whole Avenger stuff. But of course, we do get Spider-Man being an Avenger, which is awesome. At least, presumably, that's what's going to happen in the next.
Yeah, that's what we're leading to, and I mean, they gave you the illusion, especially at the end of the movie. I don't want to spoil anything, but there's a good chance.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add about this movie?
Not really. I mean, who wouldn't be? I just gotta say, who wouldn't be the nerdy friend if you knew that your best friend was Spider-Man? Like, how would you not? How would you not be that guy?
I would punch Flash in the face, though.
Oh my goodness! Well, I mean, he wrecked his dad's car, so
he's just the worst. Well, no, this new Flash Thompson, like most Flash Thompsons, they're jocks. This guy's a mathlete or whatever, like Peter is. So
right.
he should really be punched in the face.
Yeah.
There's no reason. There's no reason. I think we're good. I think we're good in this one, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. A really good movie. I think people are really not. I think people got it a little underrated, honestly.
Want to move on to the next?
Superhero fatigue, maybe.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep.
Well, do you want to move on to the next one?
All right. Now we're getting something serious. Man, I as happy and as giddy as I was for Spider-Man: Homecoming is as low and as depressing as I am for Dunkirk.
Yeah, no, Dunkirk. Oh man.
Christopher Nolan produced, directed, written.
Yep.
Film. Depicting the Dunkirk invasion from World War II and evacuation, I should say.
Yeah, evacuation.
And one of the biggest things about the movie, which I really did enjoy, is the fact that it was realistic in the sense of it wasn't a bunch of soldiers in the middle of a very chaotic war situation sitting down, having, a can of pork and beans over a homemade fire, talking about, what did you do when you were at home, or who are you fighting for? No, you're in a dire situation throughout the entire movie.
Yep.
Where you don't know who's going to live, who's going to die, and that's just how you react. It's just human reaction to a very chaotic situation. And that's why I think Dunkirk did the best of getting over. It's just how insane war is.
Oh yeah, I know. There's debates about how accurate it is, and there's a few things here and there you could absolutely say. I mean, I think I watched the history podcast where they said it was more accurate than some movies. It was probably in the Spielberg Saving Private Ryan level, which is about, if you had to give it up between 100% accuracy, it's probably 70% accurate or so, which isn't bad. Some details were off, etc. But it definitely got the point across of just how screwed the people were, just how chaotic it all was, and you got a grasp for 3 very different stories that was pretty well done.
Yeah, from very different angles and perspectives, and I really was taken aback by it. That was one of those more engrossing films that I've experienced in 2017.
Mm-hmm. So, real quick for the listeners, just to it follows the Dunkirk evacuation, or the Miracle of Dunkirk, and and Christopher Nolan, known for playing with time, does play with time in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Which was really hilarious, because he can't possibly manipulate time. No, he does. Because what he does is, you follow one specific soldier, and he meets up with other soldiers over what's about a week on the beaches.
Right.
It's about a week of his life, I should say, because it is technically longer than that, but you see him trying to evacuate through the beaches, there's lines, he tries to get on one boat, that boat gets blown up, etc. And it just keeps going, because they're really screwed. And then
Yeah, it's just a very example of like how screwed you are in a situation like that.
Mhm. Then it follows a civilian boat owner played by, I believe, Mark Rylance.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's him and a couple of boys who took the ship out from not Dover, but one of the other major ports to go and pick up some of the sailors or some of the soldiers from Dunkirk. And along the way, they run into Cillian Murphy.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's pronounced Cillian. Because, of course, Christopher Nolan has his group of actors he likes to cast, and he's always going to cast Cillian Murphy.
Yeah, so he always get that spot.
I am fine with that because I like that guy. But it's always funny when certain directors always cast the same people.
Yeah.
And like for example, Mark Rylance, Spielberg's now cast him like 4 times in about as many years. But hey, Mark Rylance get nominated for an Oscar for his performance in Bridge of Spies, so.
Yeah, so I can't complain there.
No, keep striking that iron. But Cillian Murphy plays like I think he's a pilot or a boatman who crashed or whatever, and he's basically dealing with severe PTSD.
Yeah. Just shivering. Like, he's in bad shape by then.
He's very sympathetic despite what happens with him.
Yeah.
Which is really hard to believe, but he is genuinely still sympathetic despite doing something which I just thought was awful. And I kind of got mad at the script for doing. I don't want to get into too many spoilers. And then the Tom Hardy. Once again, Tom Hardy has something over his mouth. Because he's out playing.
Will he ever play a movie now where he doesn't have to wear a mask?
This is like the 4th time this has happened to him.
Will he ever have to wear? Will he have to ever go through a movie where he doesn't have to wear a mask? Like,
he had to do it when he was Mad Max, and Mad Max is not known for wearing a faceplate.
Right.
And now he's wearing a World War II, oxygen mask, and he just sounds amazing when he's in the cockpit.
Yeah.
Because he's got like the really cool. It's like, all right, squadron leader. Like
maybe that's why they feel like he's a better actor with some kind of facial obstruction on his face.
He did it all with eye movements essentially, and it was amazing. I love Tom Hardy's performance in this. If there's a category for like best actor who only communicates using his eyes, Tom Hardy's got to be
He's
like.
Going to be it. He's a shoe in the win.
Oh, it was glorious. I was having so much fun with him. I just want to play like a World War II flight sim game where you only play as Tom Hardy's character. And he makes quips in real time.
Oh man!
Right.
And then we gave someone an idea that quick, man. That is awesome.
Yeah. Before I throw it back to you for a few more thoughts before we move on again, one more thing I want to say. This is one of the few movies I saw this year that actually had me cry.
Mm.
I didn't full on bawl or anything, but I was
no, you can feel the emotions.
Yeah, well, especially at the end when they get back, and without giving too much away, there's a scene where they show a newspaper article and something they put in as a tribute to a character.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Hard. That hit me really hard. Like, I was tearing up at that. That was, like... And like I said, Nolan does so much with sound in this movie and time and everything. It's...
Oh, yeah. That was another thing. That was the only thing I really wanted to bring up was just the incredible sound mixing in this movie. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, guess what it got nominated for?
Yeah, for good reason.
Oh, yeah.
And for good reason.
Yeah. No, it's... And I'm just really glad that a historic epic like this made over $500 million, because, I mean, it is always discouraging when all the top grossing movies are sequels, remakes, or whatever. So it was nice to have... I mean, it's still a historic film, so it's not exactly original, but, I mean, to have such a fresh thing make over $500 million at the box office was really nice. Yeah, so nothing else for Dunkirk?
No, just an incredible movie. Really.
Absolutely. So I guess we'll talk about, we still got another superhero movie. Technically 2 on the list if you really want to, well, 3 even. But we'll talk about, the one we want to talk about is the one that's actually been nominated for an Academy Award for Best Adapted Screenplay. This is the first time a superhero movie has been nominated for an Academy Award for Best Screenplay in 14 years, because it hasn't been since The Incredibles got nominated. That's how far back we have to go.
Wow.
Right? And it's Logan. That's right. The third Wolverine movie, standalone, obviously, because the other X-Men movies, or at least the original trilogy, really focused on Wolverine as well.
Right.
So arguably his sixth, and then of course there's the cameos he made in the other ones. But yeah, in this case, it follows an old Logan or Wolverine in the not too distant future. I think they say it's like 2024.
Yeah, it's not that old. It's not that far away when you really think about it.
No, it's really not. Like, yeah, it's like 2024, 2029, something like that. And like the big thing is there's like some unmanned shipping trucks and stuff like that. Like there's some new companies that have taken over, but it's really not that futuristic. There's cyborgs, because of course, comic books.
Yeah, in the future there will be robots.
Yeah, and it's all about. It's really weird because it's about Wolverine, and his healing factor is starting to fail him, seemingly because the adamantium has finally poisoned him. And yeah, and he's trying to care for an old Professor X, or Charles Xavier, played by Patrick Stewart still, who's now basically got dementia.
Right, and having seizures.
Yeah, with his power.
With his psychic abilities, like tied into that's a destructive force.
Oh yeah.
Was incredible. Like just the first time you experience it when you see it in the movie, and you don't really put two and two together until afterwards when you find out what the source is, and it's really actually very scary.
I know, like this is the thing. It really looks at the dark side of superhero movies in such a way, but at the same time, like it's not just the fact that it's a dark story, and like we should probably actually, you know what? Before we get into that, I'm just gonna finish wrapping up the recap.
Okay.
A little girl gets brought to him. She needs to get to Canada because it's like a safe zone now. Apparently, the U.S. is not in good shape.
Yeah.
Insert political opinion here.
Yeah.
I really don't want to touch on that in these podcasts. They're supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
But yeah. And so they have to go on the road with this little girl who turns out to be X-23 from the comics.
Right.
Small spoiler, but this is pretty. And I can't remember what her.
I mean, that's pretty much a given. If you saw a trailer, you pretty much can put two and two together.
Yeah, they were teasing it pretty heavily because there was like the two claw thing. Because X-23, for those who don't know, is essentially a sort of clone of Wolverine, who has two claws in her hands, and then her third claw is actually in her foot, each one of her feet. So she's got claws in her feet and hands.
Yeah, which they actually definitely utilize in the movie.
And instead of being a tiny Canadian man, it's a tiny girl of Mexican descent, as she is in this one. I believe she was born from like a Mexican surrogate mother, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Although Wolverine, Canada's greatest superhero, has to take her to Canada.
Hey man, Wolverine gets around, you just don't know.
Yep, he's a lumberjack and he's okay. Yeah, so that's the basic premise. So it's a road movie where the characters have to travel basically because their base was right across the border in El Paso.
Right.
So he has to go all the way north, and it's a movie that really kind of looks at the dark, gritty, depressing side of comics about stuff people would never really want to think about, especially with Professor X.
Right, and just the frailty. I mean, because we always think about like the mutants and the superheroes as these indestructible beings that never age, and then we see this too frail epitomes of those characters, especially with Professor X, even with him being paralyzed. It's always been the example of the power of good and evil in terms of mutants. And then you have Wolverine, who of course has the infinite healing factor that he can seem like he can never die. And now we have two characters that are the epitome of the mutant kind, now old, decrepit, and dying.
Yeah. I think the best way to describe Logan at a glance is superheroes get old.
Yeah.
But it ultimately becomes very much like a Western.
Yeah, especially when we hit the road trip part. Pretty much the second act.
Well, they flat out reference Shane.
Yeah.
They at one point they're literally in a hotel room watching Shane. Which is a good reference to make, because I mean it absolutely fits in.
Yeah.
And and of course Hollywood loves that, which is probably one of the reasons the screenplay got nominated. Because Hollywood loves that self-referential stuff.
Yeah, when they reference something they love you even more.
Yep. And in the end, while it looks at the unfortunate parts of the genre that we maybe don't want to think about, it affirms why they're great in the first place. Because the
Mm-hmm.
ending, without giving too much away, is such a satisfying ending
Yeah,
in
yeah.
so many ways. And again, I kind of started to tear up at the end.
Yeah, when you said, Dunkirk getting you, this got me. This was one of the movies that got me this year. And the reason why I said, I was like, oh, Wonder Woman was like the first movie, superhero movie of the year. And I forgot that Logan came out so early in the year.
Yeah, it was
And
like
one of the
March.
reasons I forgot that it came out so early in the year is because it stuck with me for so long. It just feels like it's still really fresh in my memory.
I know. Like honestly, the only thing I really kind of hate about Logan is just that they have a harmonica theme that plays in the ending, and they
Hmm.
put that on the menu screen for the freaking DVD or Blu-ray,
Oh.
and it's actually really annoying in that respect.
Oh man.
And of course, I love the fact that there's a version where you can watch it entirely in black and white,
Yeah, the black and white version, yeah.
which I don't think is entirely appropriate because, like I said, it feels more like a western than like a noir film per se.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's cool that was a feature. It absolutely deserves that nomination in my opinion. And like I said, I'm glad it got recognition. Jackman got so much recognition because he's put in so much work to this character, and he still looks phenomenal.
Phenomenal. Oh man, like even for this, he
Hey,
still looks like Wolverine. And
in a callback to a previous conversation, would you want to be hugged by Hugh Jackman?
yes, I would.
I would too.
Yes, I would.
But yeah. Anything else to say about Logan?
No, no, just another excellent film, and one of those ones I was really hyped for that actually lived up to the hype.
Yeah, thank God. So shall we move on?
Yeah, which one movie that I really wasn't too hyped for because I really didn't think too much about it, and then when it was all over, I am just giddy now with the potential of what could happen. From Split.
Yep.
Yeah.
Speaking of Professor X.
Speaking of, oh man, that was perfect. That was perfect. James McAvoy, who of course played Professor X in the more recent X-Men films, plays a man who has 23 different personalities. He's a psychopathic schizophrenic who eventually kidnaps and imprisons 3 girls and hides them in an underground facility for. I don't want to give too much away, but it's just a little bit more animalistic than you would have expected.
Well, it's very much. The movie would probably suck if they'd gotten a worse actor.
Yeah, oh my goodness, James McAvoy is so good in this movie.
Like some movies can, it's like, oh, it's an okay movie, and then if you have a stronger male lead, it's even better. In this case, like, man, if they gotten even someone even slightly less talented, it just would have fallen
It would have
apart.
flopped so badly.
Yeah, but McAvoy was up to the task, and like, it still has a lot of because. Okay, for those who don't know, this was written and directed by M. Night Shyamalan.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that. That was probably the biggest thing that caught me off guard because
Yeah.
Mr. Shyamalan has not had the best streak as of late of producing movies that I really care about.
No, he's only had like 3 or 4 movies that people actually really like, and even some
Yeah.
of them have become punchlines. I mean, the only one that people more or less seem to still universally love is Unbreakable.
Yeah,
I mean, some
ironically enough.
people,
Wink,
well,
wink.
yeah, because, but yeah, in this case, it's you still have some Shyamalanisms, or
Yeah,
there is of course a big twist that actually works really well, and there's some dialogue because Shyamalan has a weird way of writing dialogue that half the time it's like you understand why he's trying to be witty, but then he can't direct the actors to say it how he wrote it at all.
yeah. I was about to say that. Like some of the dialogue was really, really funky, but it was like Shyamalan funky, what you kind of expect from him.
Which, yeah, it's still bad, but I mean, it's like at the same time, it's like the script is witty, and like if the reactor had been directed, probably that line would have worked. But then they're just not directed well at all,
Right.
or like he specifically has them say it in a terrible. I don't know what it is. Like, it's probably down to him as a director, though. Like, if there's one thing he doesn't seem to be good at, it's directing dialogue. Luckily, actors seem to be able to make do, and for the most part, especially McAvoy in this case, because there's a scene where he's playing one of his personalities pretending to be another one of his personalities.
Yeah.
and it works.
It is somehow he somehow pulled it off. Like,
Yeah, no, it's there's not much else to say about the movie because it's essentially
yeah,
McAvoy's performance and it's weird, psychological, but amazing.
right, right. It really is a. I mean, it's really just a psychological thriller and to a certain extent a horror story as well. But as you get further into the movie and you start unraveling some of the pieces, you realize there's a lot more behind it than we thought it was.
Hmm.
And that's one of the things I want to give you kind of like a heads up if you haven't seen the movie. Be prepared to be one of those people if you haven't seen what it connects
Hmm.
to be a little bit surprised and kind of underwhelmed.
Yeah, I would definitely say it's enjoyable, and
Right,
it's if you're a type of person who still collects movies, it's not a bad one to have in your collection, especially if you want to see some good Shyamalan again.
right.
But I don't know, like it's understandable why it's probably not going to be in most people's top 10 list or anything, but it's definitely one that's
Yeah,
worth talking
which is
about.
to a certain extent unfortunately because because just off of McAvoy's acting alone, it should be.
Absolutely. I think we're good to move on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, much like the villains of this next movie, I'm going to choose to talk about it first. What, am I making a race joke? Yes. 'Cause, speaking of Academy Award nominated movies, Get Out,
Yes.
which is apparently a documentary.
Yes, it's now a documentary.
Okay, so it's written and directed by Jordan Peele,
Yeah,
who many people would know as a comedian for Key and Peele and amongst other
Right.
works.
exactly.
Keanu as well, which was pretty enjoyable. And it's essentially
I love the fact that you put yourself in this position.
I know, I love that I'm doing this. I think it's perfect though. Like at first I was wondering about fixing that when I was giving out the list to say who would talk about which movie first. And
Right.
you know what? It's gonna be funnier if I do this.
Yeah.
So it follows David Kaluuya's character. I can't remember his character name now. I'm forgetting his name.
Freaking, crap, crap. Chris.
Yeah, Chris. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is dating the lovely Allison Williams, another one of my celebrity crushes. Not gonna lie, who plays Rose, and he gets to meet the family. The problem is he is an African American man about to meet some of the whitest people in the world.
And I'm not even joking. I'm not
They
even
are
joking.
so white.
I'm not even joking when I say this. When you first see the moment where he's dating a white girl, I'm like, oh crap, we're in for something really bad.
I know. Well, that's
I'm
the
not
thing.
even joking, man. I was already scared. For him.
Well, yeah, because it's like, it's almost like a weird 2017 remake of Guess Who's Coming to Dinner.
Yeah.
If it was just a straight up horror film.
It's a straight up horror film.
And it's great because like you have a lot of Caucasian characters who can make the audience feel really uncomfortable.
Right.
I bet almost any person who's like who's white and has had a long interaction with someone who's African American or something else, and it's like, did I ever say something like that?
Yeah.
Damn it, I am a bigot. My personal favorite, of course, being I would have voted for Obama for a third term if I could.
Like always. It's always that go-to.
Yeah. So
Since 2009, that's been that go-to.
So without giving too much away, like I said, he goes and he meets the white family, and it's a horror film. That stuff does not happen. But I want to say, it's not just like, oh, they're murderers, or it's very psychological.
Yeah, it really is.
And it's really cool in that respect. Like,
yeah.
The times when they do like experimental stuff is great. And what's also just amazing, people are smart.
Yes.
In particular, Chris is very self-aware, and of course, his best friend. Oh my God, TSA agent Rod Williams.
Rod Williams, my man, my man.
The best friend in any movie this year, even better than Ned from Spider-Man, even better than
we get stuff done.
Yeah, I think who was it? Yeah, Jordan Peele himself, I think, said, he's like, Yeah, rot is essentially what happens if someone from a stereotypical African American audience actually got to be in the film.
Right. You're actually watching the movie and responding as it's happening.
Yeah, he's essentially the audience reaction character.
Yeah.
Like that's how you described it. And so that's the thing. It's like it's a really good horror movie. It's also very self-aware.
Right.
And just awkwardly speaks truth to the audience because, like I said, it's like ooh. And like it's like, oh look, it's like wow, look at this guy. It's like, hey, do you know Tiger Woods? Ooh.
Oh man, I was really I was kind of on the fence about it at first. Just the announcement of it. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
how do you really take a horror movie seriously when Jordan Peele's attached to direct it?
I was really curious because
Yeah, like that was my thing.
like intrigued is probably the best way to go for it. And it seems to work out well because was it Daniel Kaluuya?
Yeah.
He's now like he got one of his earlier roles that was really impressive is he was in a really good episode of Black Mirror.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's nominated for Best Actor.
Yeah.
And the movie got nominated for Best Screenplay, Best Director, and a few other things. And I think he got like 6 nominations, which is pretty impressive for a first-time director.
First-time director, and especially such a controversial movie in reality. And a horror movie, no less.
Yeah, and of course he's joked more than once that it's a documentary. Which, to an extent, probably. Like I said.
Yeah, I think the moment with the cop car, the cop scene was probably a good idea that this is a real life situation.
It's brilliant too because of the foreshadowing in that scene.
Yeah.
I know this is like it has so many scenes to feel true to life, and it goes to some ridiculous places, but it works so well. Like it's just such a brilliantly crafted movie. So
yeah,
it's worth a rewatch.
I've been struggling all year to say like what's my favorite movie, and like between Dunkirk and Get Out, it's like those are the two running neck and neck with me all the time. Like what's my favorite movie of 2017?
Yeah,
and Logan is right there with it, but it's just like those two have just really stood out.
Yeah, it's I would probably go with Dunkirk or Logan myself, just because, like I said, movies that make me cry.
Right.
You know, I tend to.
This made me cry for a whole different reason.
Yeah. I know. We're starting to really run long, but we only got 4 movies left, so we're gonna.
Let's wrap it up.
So you want to go for the next one?
Oh yeah, the movie with the longest, most confusing title. That's actually very straightforward. 3 billboards outside of Ebbing, Missouri.
Let's just get Sam Rockwell that damn award already.
Yeah.
Because he deserves it. He's a national treasure.
Oh my goodness, man.
Sorry, you may continue.
Oh no, Officer Dixon, man.
Yeah.
And the thing about it, this is really a story about a woman who is trying to get justice for her teenage daughter who was raped and killed by placing 3 signs on abandoned billboards near her home. And of course, this is a very small town in Missouri, and the people are just pissed off over the fact that this woman would go out of her way just to try to get justice in a simplest way possible. It's nothing that is like she's going out trying to kill people. It's not the Punisher. She's not the Punisher. She's just a woman that is trying to get justice because she sees her law enforcement not doing their job.
She's shaming a sheriff with cancer.
Yes. And to remind you, this is actually considered a comedy as well.
That is the effed up part, because this is a very dark movie.
Yeah.
And like I totally because I don't know what the hell I would do if I was ever in her situation.
Right.
And I can understand the points of view of basically everyone in this movie, and it's just like a lot of people with the best of intentions screwing up.
Mm-hmm.
That's essentially the movie. And like there's so many, like even Peter Dinklage shows up in a few scenes, and like like I said, there's some really great stuff. Like this is easily one of Sam Rockwell's best performances, which is saying something because he's a really good actor. He even made the Poltergeist remake slightly watchable.
Yeah, I was shocked. I was so shocked when I watched that movie.
But it's a like I guess we could just leave it there. It's like it's a wonderfully dark movie. that really does evoke such powerful emotions and has such well-rounded characters.
Yeah.
And it really explores the flaws of humanity in a search for justice. I think that's
the best way of summarizing it.
yeah, because
really.
it's hard to even talk, like, even if we want to get into spoilers, it's like, well, it's just stuff happens, but I mean, it's done so well when you see it. I mean, it's one
You
of those
actually
movies.
sympathize with each character in terms of like why they were acting this way.
Exactly. I mean, Dixon kind of seems like an a-hole, and then you start to sympathize with him, and then it's like, Sheriff kind of seems like an a-hole, but you just can't sympathize. It just goes on and on.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard not to hate people.
Yeah. The only thing I have to say about the movie, just real quick, is the fact I just wish it had a little bit more to the ending. Like, I love ambiguous endings, but it just felt like it was a little bit too ambiguous.
It was probably a little too abrupt. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll totally agree. Like, I understand what they were going for, and I still think it worked better than some other abrupt endings I've had.
Right.
But this one probably could have used a bit more. Can I just move on to this one?
Oh yeah, let's hit it off.
So, and speaking of movies that are really hard to talk about because it's something we have seen before to a degree, but never this stylish, I don't think. But I could easily name a couple of movies this reminds me of. But The Shape of Water,
Mm-hmm.
which it's very much like it's kind of like Baby Driver, except if it was about simplest descriptions, the 1960s, so Cold War, and the government discovers a freaky fish guy.
Yeah.
It's funnier if I describe it this way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we get a worker there, and she was deaf, right? I'm not imagining that.
And mute too.
Mute, right? Yep. This is where the crux of the film. You can understand, it's like, oh, if this movie's good and it's about a person who's mute, obviously it's because she has to communicate with sign language. And she works in the government facility and discovers the said fish man, and basically they form a bond, and then she helps him escape, and it's a whole thing. And of course, you got the crazy government guy who's like, we're gonna have to stop this ungodly creature, or the communists, and because it's communist paranoia. Like,
it's like Nixon from Futurama. Like,
well, one of the ones that it really reminded me of, only obviously not directly, is the Iron Giant.
Yeah, true.
Iron Giant's easily one I can compare the two, and probably a little bit like Powder. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that.
Yeah, like it's weird that I couldn't find a more direct parallel, because it felt like such familiar territory, but it's done so well. Much like Baby Driver, like I was saying, it's about a kid who falls in love and wants to get out of the business. Like,
right, it's nothing. It's nothing really unique or extraordinary or once in a lifetime, but it's done incredibly well, which is not unsurprising at all.
Yeah, because they managed to cover the sign language stuff and not make the movie boring.
Right.
Because I mean, we've seen recent examples of stuff where it's like, oh, you get a lot of subtitles, or you get a lot of non-English speaking, and they're trying to be artistic with it, and it just sucks. In this case, it doesn't at all. It's just a bunch of really good performance. Like, the one thing that annoys me is that Doug Jones, who plays said Fishman, I can't remember. I think it's just he doesn't have a proper name.
He's Amphibian Man. He's Amphibian Man in the credits.
That's the there you go. So freaking fish guy. He doesn't get nominated for an acting award because it's technically a performance capture.
Yeah.
Which is the same stuff that Andy Serkis has to deal with every time he does a really good performance and doesn't get nominated. Because he does his best stuff as, like, Gollum and stuff.
Right.
Yeah. But, this had a bunch of really good performances from, because we got Sally Hawkins playing Eliza, the lead, who's the mute, so where she has to do a lot of stuff with sign language, and thankfully she was up to the task. Michael Shannon as our crazy colonel. Of course, Michael Shannon's the villain.
Yeah, it only makes sense.
He looks so naturally angry. He's one of those actors. It's like, if he's not the villain, I'm surprised.
Yeah. He's the angry dad that tells you to get off his lawn. Like, that's the only option.
Yeah, it's like, oh, as for the villain, spoiler, Michael Shannon's in this movie. So he's the bad guy. And then, Richard Jenkins has a pretty good supporting role as, like, the neighbor.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, and then what's her nuts? Octavia Spencer.
Yeah, Zelda. Yeah.
Yeah, the translator. Yeah, she was really.
Yeah, it's yep.
And I know what else to say. It's a super visual movie.
Yeah, very much so. Like it's one of those movies that's really hard to explain, like you said, without actually seeing it, because there's so much of it that's actually non. It's not that much dialogue in between the main relationship
Yeah, I
for
know.
obvious reasons.
But once you see it, it's just it really is a really well done movie. It's understandable why like there's so much elaborate stuff with the direction and everything. It's just if you don't think you're gonna like it, you still might.
Yeah, take a chance.
Absolutely.
You could be fall in love with Amphibian Man.
I too want to have sex with a fish now.
I want to be hugged by Amphibian Man.
Yep. So we can still get two more movies, so we should probably move on.
Yeah, I'll definitely be quick with this one because this is a personal one that I really wanted to cover.
Mm-hmm.
Really quickly, for the last 7 years, we haven't had a Saw movie because really they ran the franchise into the ground. That's exactly what happened. They ran the franchise into the ground and lost focus on really what made the first one, the first three really good. And I'll fight you for the sixth. I think the sixth is probably one of the best ones of the whole franchise, which is shocking because after 4 and 5, I didn't expect it to be any good. And then the seventh one came out, and it was okay. And then they decided, hey, let's reboot the franchise and let's have Jigsaw come back, but not really come back.
Mm.
Yeah, so I wasn't that excited about it. This is like the first Saw movie since the first one, which I just rented because I was on a whim. I didn't even know about it at the time, and then I just rented it at a video store when those existed, and was really enamored. And then, like, for every year that it came out, I was actually there for day one. This is the first time I didn't go day one, release day, to see a Saw film, but then I eventually saw it, and I'm glad I didn't, because I would have been very upset with myself. So, and for all the good movies we talked about, this is the complete opposite. I think it did absolutely nothing to help the franchise. I don't think, if you're not a fan of the Saw franchise, you will enjoy this one. It's not the worst one, but it's one of the worst ones. The only thing I'll give it credit for is the fact that they finally, to me, answered a lingering question I've had for the entire time, that how did Jigsaw, and even his accomplices, have the physical ability to move some of that stuff around that they were building that were traps?
No idea.
Like, that was the only thing they answered to me in the movie that made any sense. It was the fact, like, now we know, we actually have an explanation as to how they physically move stuff around, because at first it was like 7 movies deep, and I was like, I don't know how in the world they could set these things up. There was no physical way that this guy and the people that he was working with, especially one of the later villains that tried to take the mantle, who was completely stupid. Like, he was too stupid to be able to set up this stuff. So at least then they had like this one character that I can say, hey, he's smart enough and physically able enough to do Jigsaw's work if they decide that somehow, some way, they're going to continue on. But please, I ask for the love of everything that is Jigsaw, stop now. Do not do another Saw movie. Just stop. And this is coming from a long time Saw fan. Just please stop.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I got nothing really good to say about this. Look, I didn't see it, and I'm like, I wasn't really a big fan of the franchise to begin with.
Right.
Cause, I don't know, the psychological elements impressed me, but when it just became more porn than, you know...
Well, that's what happened to me. It was like the 4th movie was that, the 5th movie was that, and the 6th movie actually got back to what it felt like the roots of the idea. Like, to me, the 6th movie was on par with the 2nd movie.
Right.
And then the 7th movie was just back to the same old, and this is the same thing.
Well, it's, when a franchise gets driven into a lake, what can you do?
Yeah. Oh, man.
Could have been worse, though. Could have been driven into a Krispy Kreme. Yeah, the final movie I want to talk about, you actually reminded me about this, James.
Yeah.
And I realized I really should, because we did kind of talk about this early in the year, vaguely,
Right.
is Power Rangers. Because I'm a decent Power Rangers fan.
Right.
I'm
a hardcore Power Rangers fan until Space.
You see, I've actually watched some of the later seasons, and there's a couple of seasons I really love. Like, I'm annoyed that some of the better later seasons aren't out in HD. Because now we've got, like, now all the new seasons are HD, but none of the new seasons have been that good from what I've seen. Like, there's a couple that were better than others, for sure. But it's also like, oh, they finally discovered a way to do a fart joke. It's 2016. It's like, come on, guys. Still some funny moments, but not the fart jokes. Anyway, but in this case, yeah, it's essentially a retelling of the original TV show from '93. So the original crew, you got your Jason, you got your Kimberly, you got your Billy, you got your Trini, you got your Zach,
Mm-hmm.
and they all come together as teenagers with attitude. Except, again, they love to reference John Hughes movies. This one is very much inspired by Breakfast Club.
Very much so.
And it's shockingly good.
Yeah, which is surprising to me.
Sorry, I just had a throat tickle. But, like, yeah, no, the teen drama was really good. Like, it's so weird that I have to say this. It's a Power Rangers movie where I didn't want to see the Rangers.
Right. Well, to me, it actually kind of fell off a little bit once we got to the point where, hey, it's time to fight the big bads.
It was boring because it was heavy CG, and that's where they spent all the money. And like, it's just I didn't care. It was shallow, and I felt detached. You know, it's the same problem you get when you have these CGI heavy fights, and you just don't feel invested, right?
Right.
Especially when it's CG on CG, and it just feels tedious.
Yeah. I mean, especially big rock balls that are supposed to be putties that don't look like putties at all, and
they're supposed to be weird humanoid creatures that seem to be screaming in pain.
Yeah. It's something from Silent Hill. Hey, look something from Silent Hill, and not in a good way.
No. Like, that's the thing. Like, the character drama was really good. I didn't mind Elizabeth Banks being over the top.
Yeah, I was fine with that.
She's playing freaking Rita Repulsa. I mean, of course she's over the top.
Right, and the fact is the fact that she was, she's been captured and isolated and put in this situation where she's still the same character that she was, like 10,000 years ago.
Yep.
Like the person that she is now, she hasn't been able to be around people for like 10,000 years, so she's still like this wacky military force that is fighting aliens in her mind.
I'm all about it. And then, Bryan Cranston played Zordon.
Yeah.
And Zordon wasn't great.
Yeah, Zordon was a jerk.
I know, like, I appreciated them trying to do something different with him, but I didn't like the alien wall face they gave him.
Yeah. It just felt like a big bunch of LCD screens, like.
And Bill Hader was Alpha. He was not great as Alpha.
No, not a bit. That was probably the weakest parts of anything that they reimagined. Was definitely Alpha and Zordon.
Yeah, it was pretty much screwed from word go, which is a shame because like I like Bill Hader.
Yeah.
And I like
Bryan
Cranston.
It just doesn't work for Alpha.
No, I wouldn't blame. You know, they probably could have done better too. But I mean, I probably want to blame it more on the script. It may just be because I like them both. You know, I'll totally mea culpa on that. But I really think the script kind of let them down. But I mean, like I said, the putty sucked. And you know, Rita was fine.
Goldar was terrible.
Yeah, well, they literally made him gold, so.
Yeah.
But the Krispy Kreme joke, to explain that, this movie has a serious product placement problem. It's up there with frickin'. It's up there. It's worse than frickin' Man of Steel, which is usually considered one of the biggest offenders for product placement, or any Adam Sandler movie, because Adam Sandler movies, especially these days, tend to have a lot of product placement. Unless it's like, what do you call it, The Ridiculous Six. But, yeah, in this case, freaking the big thing that they're trying to find, the Zeo Crystal, because they put that in this movie, is under a Krispy Kreme. So they keep talking about going to the Krispy Kreme.
Especially the last third of the movie. It's just Krispy Kreme all the time.
Yeah, and it's silly, because like, you think about all the big places where you have these big battles in movies. It's like, alright, the final battle's going to be at a Krispy Kreme.
Yeah.
Ugh. Just terrible.
I would just rather them say Angel Grove High. Like, if they just went with that, I've been perfectly fine. They kept saying it over and over again. That'd been fine, because it would have felt like it was a good turnaround to, okay, they started there, they were just a bunch of screw-ups or misguided youths that started and met at Angel Grove, and, of course, Angel Grove was the site of the Zero Crystal, but nope, it's all about that Krispy Kreme money.
Yep. So I got 3 quick things I want to mention.
All right.
First of all, personal fact, this movie was mostly filmed about 2 hours away from me.
Wow.
Yep. No. If I had been committed, I probably could have tried to become an extra. But I have a day job, so I couldn't really make the drive. I kind of was tempted though. It was easily one of the most tempting things to do because, like, yeah, they filmed it in a. Once I found out where they were filming Angel Grove, I was like, that place is not gonna look good. Because it's like an old mill town essentially. There's a lot of train tracks and stuff. It's like, this place is not gonna be appropriately named. And then cameo note, yes, they did have two original Power Rangers make cameo.
Yeah, very late in the movie.
Yeah, Jason David Frank and Amy Jo Johnson, the original Tommy and Kimberly, both showed up. And apparently Jason David Frank got kicked off the set at one point for taking selfies with everyone.
You know what? I did not know that.
He is apparently a very nice guy, so he's probably just trying to be nice, and he's backfired.
Nothing but good things.
I know, like, yeah, he's apparently a very nice guy. And the third thought was, I did appreciate that they played the original Go-Go Power Rangers theme. Slightly mad that they cut it off for a joke.
Yeah.
Like, that was the other thing, is the movie had a couple points where they wished they could have been a bit more serious.
Yeah. It's just funny, like, I have to go back to Spider-Man Homecoming. The ode to the actual old Spider-Man theme, and them actually doing it right.
Yeah, like, that's the thing, because, I mean, I don't know. Because when they play it, they launch their Zords, and it's a cool moment, and then they kind of ruin it with a gag.
Right.
I know they kind of maybe feel a little embarrassed to play the original Power Rangers theme, and it's 90s cheese glory.
It's so 90s hokey, but people love it.
Because I know, and it's so cool to hear when they have all the big robots running in a row like that. It's such a cool moment. Just embrace the cheese. Don't be ashamed of the cheese. Put that cheddar and that mozz together, and you make yourself a calzone. But yeah, so that, I think, about covers our 2017 in film, unless you had any more thoughts on Power Rangers?
Any movies that you think we didn't cover, like Justice League, Thor, we've talked about it already. Check out the early shows.
And there's a couple more that are nominated for stuff that I think we're probably going to cover, because, of course, the problem with some of these nominated movies is they don't come out locally until, like, late January, early February.
Right.
So, we'll see what happens there. Disaster Artist, for example, I mean, I got that in time, but I know some other places they still haven't gotten it.
Right. And we've talked about that, too, so.
Yeah. So, moving on to video games real quick.
Yeah, very quickly.
Let's talk about Assassin's Creed Origins.
Yeah.
So, they actually didn't release an Assassin's Creed Origins game, or an Assassin's Creed game in 2016. Because after Assassin's Creed Unity in 2014, the Assassin's Creed franchise really kind of took a beating, because Unity was infamously bad.
Right.
And is easily my least favorite game in the franchise, which is saying something. Because there's some bad ones. Like, the original game has not aged well.
No, not at all. Not at all.
But Unity's flat out worse. And no question. And then we got Syndicate, which was actually pretty good, but after the disappointment of Unity.
Nobody wanted to jump on that train.
No, so they took a year off. The main titles, I think there were some spin-offs or whatever.
Yeah, I know it's a couple of spin-offs.
Don't really care about that.
Yeah, nobody cared.
Plus we got the movie, which didn't go over very well.
Yeah, the less talked about that, the better.
Yeah, talk about a waste of talent. But yeah, then we got Assassin's Creed Origins, which I think you've played it more recently than I have. Do you want to take?
Yeah. I actually just finished the main story. Actually, I finished it overall for me last night of this recording. I was actually shocked because I thought I had a little bit more, and then all of a sudden I was like, nope, this is the end. I was like, wow, okay then.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's Assassin's Creed. If you've played any of the Assassin's Creed games, essentially this is Assassin's Creed set in Egypt.
Yep.
That's probably the best way of putting it. Like, I really can't say anything more if you haven't played it. It's a third-person pseudo action adventure stealth game where you play as a guy that can jump off of very, very tall things and land in a bale of hay and not die.
Yep. As everybody knows, bale of hay secretly made
saves
the softest
lives.
material in the world.
I mean, it's just immaculate how all these assassins have learned how to jump in that bale of hay and still live.
That's the power of the assassin.
That's the power of the Creed. That's what you have to learn when you get a part of the Brotherhood is how to jump off of tall things and then teach others.
Well, don't forget also,
live.
don't forget, roll in the hay is also considered a euphemism for sex.
Right.
So how much sex are they having in that hay?
Which they alluded to a lot in this one.
Oh, yeah,
but
that's
for
true.
good reason, because at least we have a couple. We have two people that are actually in love with each other. They were married, and yeah, that goes downhill fast. But for good, so yeah, I enjoyed most of the story. I think one of the biggest problems is the fact that they try to tie it, which they always do, into historical facts, and unfortunately, they kind of ran out of time. I believe, like they were trying to tie a whole bunch of loose ends, and it didn't really make much sense.
Yeah,
but the core story with the two characters, specifically the Bayek, who's the main character that you mostly played with, and his wife, is a really good story. That part is a really, really good story.
Oh, yeah,
it's all kind of like the outside stuff of them trying to be historically accurate, yes, inaccurate,
I know,
that hurts the story as a whole to me more than anything.
Yeah, it's definitely a stronger writing than we've gotten in a while. Syndicate was fine, but the writing wasn't the strongest part. But like the characterization for the Fry siblings was pretty good, at least. And then, but like, we probably haven't had writing this good since Black Flag, which was Assassin's Creed 4, which I believe was like 2013. Yeah.
Was it that? Yeah, 2013. Because 3 came out in 12. Yeah, that's when I got my PlayStation 3. So yeah, 2013.
And even then, yeah, and after that, we probably hadn't had writing as good since Brotherhood.
Yeah.
Because like 2 was pretty good, and then Brotherhood was pretty good. Revelations was
yeah, that was almost of unnecessary. Yeah.
And 3 had some really good points and some really bad points, and then
and that's when I fell off for me. It was like 3 was like the last one I really cared about. I actually had Black Flag, never played it, have it loaded up on my Xbox, and just still never gave it a chance. And
Black
then
Flag
when you
is
told
pretty
me,
good.
and that's the thing. Like everybody says, the last great Assassin's Creed until this one, and I just still haven't given it the chance. And then you told me about the fiasco that was Unity.
Unity it's one of the worst games I've ever played. And I played it when the bugs were fixed.
Right.
And I still had stuff like a guy sitting in a meditation pose, hovering through the street. I
had some fun in this one too, though.
Well, yeah, no, this one, like, unfortunately, modern gaming, it just has so many bug issues. It's not even funny, especially with like Ubisoft is one of the big offenders, although it's by nowhere near the only offender. So don't think we're taking a knock at Ubisoft. Unfortunately, they have developed this reputation. People still play their games.
and then you add the fact that this is easily one of the biggest worlds they have ever put together in a game.
It doesn't feel quite as cluttered as some of the other ones, too.
It doesn't. That's the thing. It's really very spaced out, and I was actually surprised, like, looking at the map, how big of the world it was, and I was expecting it to, like, not be as concise as to the size. I was expecting, okay, this big map, but it's going to be really close together, and in reality, no, it's a really big map, both when you look at the map itself and when you actually play in the game. And everything feels a lot open and varied, outside of a few of the actual inside interiors. Like, that's the only thing that doesn't feel necessarily varied.
So I want to ask you about a couple things.
Okay.
3 specific things I think come to mind with this game that I want to talk about real quick. So,
all right.
But I'll ask you for this because you've played it more recently than I have, so you'll have it more fresh in your mind. What did you think about the new Eagle Vision system?
It was okay.
You didn't like? I actually really liked it.
I liked it, but to me it was like a poor man's Far Cry.
I guess you could say that, yeah.
Yeah, that was the only
thing.
Same
company makes both games, so.
Right, it was kind of finicky. Like sometimes it would pick up stuff when it wouldn't, and sometimes it would pick up like especially enemy spots, and then like an enemy would be right there beside another one, and it wouldn't pick that one up, and stuff like that. And then like with Far Cry, one of the things, especially in Primal, where you could train your Eagle to actually attack and knock out one enemy at a time once in a while. Like, I was kind of hoping we could do that in Origins, but all you could do is just harass. And then I still couldn't really assassinate people when he was harassing. So,
that's true. Yeah, fair enough.
But in terms of, like, spotting treasures and stuff like that, I really, really appreciated Eagle Vision in Origins.
Yeah, no, I thought it was, in general, a very good step up. What do you think about the hippos?
Oh, man, those hippos.
Right?
It was funny because I got the trophy. One of the trophies is a running away from 3 hippo fights, and it was funny because like it popped up so fast for me. It popped up so fast for me of me
What
running
is
from
the
the
name of that
hippo.
achievement? I can't remember it. Wasn't something funny?
Huh?
Was the name of was the name of that trophy like something funny like Hungry Hungry Hippos or whatever?
Yeah, I think so. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was like it popped up and I had no idea what it was. That's all I was like, "Oh, you ran from 3 hippo fights?" Like, yeah, yes, I did.
Yeah, no, this game made hippos genuinely scary.
Yeah.
And the third, I want to ask you about did the loot system make it kind of feel like they were trying to not ape per se, but like get a bit more of the Witcher type stuff in there?
Yeah, yeah, it definitely felt that way. And all of the weapons are actually level. So usually around whatever level you are, whatever you when you get an item, it's pretty much around your level. And it was randomized to a certain extent, but it also felt like you said you find some treasure or attack an enemy or kill an enemy, and you get some kind of treasure instead of just coming out of. But I mean, you still have some of the animals. Animals still give you a few things here and there, but they stuck to just humans and actual treasure boxes delivering on the potential of you getting items, which I enjoyed. I thought it was really good. When it comes to the actual leveling system, that's probably my least favorite thing in the whole game.
They've always had a problem with this.
Yeah, but this
All the
was like a
Assassin's Creed
whole
games,
different story.
progress has always been an issue because
Yeah.
they run into some problems with balancing. I mean, balancing is hard. You know, I'm not going to
Right.
say,
Yeah,
oh,
I
again,
can't say that it's not.
no,
But
no.
in terms of this one, it's a little bit different because say if you're a level you're level 8. You're level 8 and the mission asks for you to be at the minimum a level 10. Usually if you're a level or two below the common adversaries, you're in pretty good shape. But say if you're 3 levels below, if that guy's a level 11, usually 1 to 2 hits will kill you.
Hmm.
And the worst part about that is the fact that you really can't progress the main story without making sure you are around or if not surpass the level that they recommend. And that
Yeah,
means you'll do some grinding, you'll do a lot of side quests, and the majority of the side quests are just, oh, go kill that guy or go pick this up, and sometimes they're a little lengthy. Even though a few of the characters are pretty interesting, it's still not Witcher level side quests interesting.
yeah. It's not Witcher level. It's not a Resident Zero Dawn level interesting for the
Right.
side quests. I mean, like they're fine, but they ultimately do kind of become busy work, which is the problem.
Yeah.
Like it's if this if Assassin's Creed Origins, in a lot of ways, is either hitting the standard or going beyond the standard, which doesn't sound like a bad thing, but the problem is the standard is kind of getting disappointing with modern gaming, especially since we've seen what the top quality can be.
Right.
I mean, it's not necessarily even this game. Like, cause like I said, I think in general this is a pretty decent game.
Yeah, and I did not walk away feeling like, oh man, I wasted my time.
No,
But
no,
it
no.
was one of those situations where I want to say the last maybe 5 hours before I wrapped it up, I was starting to have that feeling, just like you said, where I'm feeling like, oh man, I'm really getting tired of this formula, and I
Yeah,
really am not excited about playing another Assassin's Creed game.
I know this is the problem. Like, it's just we've seen this genre so much now, and we're so used to the Ubisoft open world, like in between Far Cry, um, Watch Dogs, and Assassin's Creed, because they've got their formula and it works absolutely fine. But the problem is with so many games out there like it now, it's starting to feel overplayed, and so it can be harder to excel beyond the basic.
Right.
And that's really what makes it. Because, like I said, it's not really in any way a bad game at all.
Not at
It's
all. Like I said, I was actually surprised that I enjoyed it as much as I did. It was a little bit daunting at first, and then as I got further into it, I'm like, oh yeah, this is really fun. But then like, I came down to almost like the last 5 hours, like I said, it was that same feeling of, man, I've done this so many times now.
Yep.
I don't know if I really want to do this again.
I know. Yeah. You. This is why they need to only come out about once a year or so, and like why when you have so many Ubisoft games of the same kind of basic style coming out at the same time, it's starting to
Hmm.
be an issue. But like, so I just hope that they keep innovating and they can freshen it up a bit. But as it stands, this is a fine standard to go with. It's just general exhaustion. It's the
Yeah,
only
yeah.
problem. And
Yeah,
there's
it's
not much
nothing really about the game itself. That's the
no,
thing.
no. It's just in the wider world of gaming. Like this is the thing. Like because we've kind of complained a decent amount about it, which I don't know if it's entirely fair, but it's we're it's a fun game.
It's a fun game. If you enjoyed the older Assassin's Creed games and kind of always hoped of something larger, grander, this is perfect. This is absolutely perfect. I cannot take away from that. But if you are sick of that formula, if you've gotten tired of it, if Horizon Zero Dawn didn't rejuvenate your ideas, if even Watch Dogs 2, which I think is a pretty underrated game, I thought it was a really good game, especially coming off of Watch Dogs 1. And if you don't really care about the Assassin's Creed formula, this is not going to change your mind.
No,
but
it's...
But if you do like it, if you do like the Assassin's Creed formula, this is your thing. If you like the Ubisoft formula, I think this is one of the better examples of them doing it right.
Absolutely. I know, it's more like... It's like what happened when you went from Far Cry 2 to Far Cry 3.
Right.
It's, it's still the same thing, but it's like, it is better, but it's like, you're familiar with the formula now? I don't know, it's like, it's hard because there's just been so many of them.
Yeah, especially with the last few years. This generation has really established that formula.
I know, it's just too much of a good thing, I would almost say.
Yeah. And then the good thing becomes incredibly mediocre.
Yeah, and it really shouldn't be, but you just notice the flaws. Like, it's like if you do the same job for so long, you start to notice the stuff you hate about the job more.
Right.
It's just the same thing. But it wasn't going to be on our best of 2017 gaming list, even if we had played it in 2017. But it wouldn't have been one of our worst games by any stretch.
Oh, not a bit. It's right in that middle. It's right in that good middle.
Absolutely. No,
for me, it's like in the same round with Tekken 7 and those games. I really enjoy while I played it, but now that I'm far removed from it, it doesn't stand out in my memory banks to that degree.
No, if you're a fan of the Assassin's Creed genre, especially if you're disappointed with Unity, this is definitely a good one to play.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's not going to make you a convert if you haven't played an Assassin's Creed game before, though. That's really what it comes down to, I think.
And if you are really looking forward to finding out more about all the supernatural stuff, look elsewhere.
Okay, they're never going to continue that at this point.
They're never going to.
They're going to stretch that out for decades. Well, I don't know. I miss working at Abstergo Industries as a game designer.
Yeah, that was in
Black Flag, yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, that was just really weird.
I love that.
Yeah. I mean, no, I love the sci-fi parts and the stuff they did. It was just like, I'm talking about this game, how it was implemented. It just really never even, it really didn't.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't necessary.
They phoned it in ever since Black Flag.
Yeah, it was totally unnecessary.
It's been really disappointing in that respect. But in general, nope. Solid game. Do you recommend? Any final thoughts, James?
No, just if you ever wanted to climb a pyramid and just don't feel like doing it yourself, there you go.
Yep. So I think that's where we're going to end today's episode. I have been Peter, the littlest hobo Dawson.
I have been James, Soulful Lordy, Wonder Woman, Get Out Bullock.
Yep. And until next time, folks, be sure to check out quimpop.com for more, including life lessons from gaming with Mr. James here.
Yes.
It's a very good series.
This week is BioFreaks, too, so get freaky with it. Get freaky.
Yep. And until next time, folks, have yourselves a good day.